Hello, and welcome to Georgia Romance Writers Moonlight and Magnolias virtual writing conference. We are so glad that you have joined us this year and hope you learn a lot today from our presenters so that you can feel excited and engaged about your writing and your writing career. Today, I'm going to be presenting a workshop called Writing Through It All. It's how we might think about writing if we are experiencing things like depression, pain, maybe a global pandemic. Life happens and we need to find ways to keep writing when we can. And I hope this presentation might be particularly meaningful to you this year, but in all the years, we always have difficult times and periods in our life, and we may need to think about why we write and how we can keep persevering with our writing. My name is Nikki Salcedo. I'm one of the conference co-chairs for Moonlight and Magnolias. I'm a past president of Georgia Romance Writers, longtime member of RWA, a two-time Maggie recipient and a Golden Heart finalist. I love talking to you about writing. If you're joining us for the virtual conference, I also have a session on building characters. So I want to make sure your writing is as vibrant as it can be. But today we're going to talk a little bit about how you can think about the emotional side of writing. This past year, I became a certified instructor of adult mental health first aid. It's an international movement, much like traditional first aid, where we help people who might be having a medical crisis. Mental health first aiders actually learn how to support someone who might be with a crisis in their mental health or an emerging crisis. And there are things that we can do to intervene. So I think talking about mental health is incredibly important. And just to start us off with some disclaimers, I am not a clinician. This is an educational presentation. We are going to talk about some different physical and mental conditions. It's not meant to diagnose or treat anything that you are experiencing. It's just to increase your awareness and give you some tools and reminders. One of the most important reminders I can give you is to speak to your doctor, a medical professional, about anything you're experiencing, whether it's in your physical well-being, your emotional well-being. They're qualified medical and mental health professionals out there who can support you. And I always start my workshops with a few rules. And one is just take note of what you hear. I'm going to talk through some new ideas. I want you to challenge yourself. It's really easy, particularly this year, for us to make excuses. Life is always tough. It's always tough. So give yourself some grace. And that means if it hasn't been a year to your writing expectations, that's okay. Keep writing, try to have fun. If you can, maybe revise something, revisit your notes, think about yourself in this world that we're in. This is like a big play. What character are you playing and how can you take charge of your life? We ask our characters to do that. Today, I'm going to ask you to do the same. I'm happy to stay connected with you. I'll remind you again at the end if you have questions, how to reach out to me. And again, I do want to thank Georgia Romance Writers for being creative this year, for coming up with a way to have an in-person and a virtual conference. Our words really matter. I'm going to remind you of that a few times today. So first of all, I'd like to just start by asking you how you are feeling. And it's okay for us to do a check every morning. How are you feeling? And a lot of us just say, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. Fine. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So it's a funny way we greet and meet each other. But now I want to ask you, how are you really feeling? Are you tired or stressed, worried? Do you feel sick? Are you alone? These are tougher questions to answer. And throughout the course of the presentation today, some of the things I talk about might be sensitive to you because of a personal experience that you have. So I just want you to be aware that that's okay and natural. And if this might be too much for you to watch today. Maybe come back at a time when you feel ready to think about your life and how you are feeling. But the sad truth is, we might look at our friends on social media, see perfect family photos, meals they've cooked, trips, everything is amazing, but many of us are struggling. Many of us are tired, stressed, overwhelmed, and feeling exhausted. And the truth is, if you're feeling that way, you are not alone. It often feels like we are the only ones struggling. Everyone else has a perfect house, it's clean, their kids are perfect, their marriage is perfect. They're writing 10,000 words a day. The words they're written are being immediately accepted by their agent, their editor, their publisher, they're making lots of money. And you think you are the only one struggling. And the fact is, even someone who has published multiple books might get rejection. Some of us have experienced hardships in our families, death, divorce, loss. And so you are not alone if you are feeling challenged this year or any of the other years of your life. And I'm going to talk through some things I want you to think about today. One is your body. How do you feel? Maybe you are living with a medical condition, an illness. Maybe you hurt, your body's in pain. Maybe you want to get in shape and have exercise or fitness incorporated into your life. Some of us just feel really tired and we're not eating the best, or we're having trouble sleeping. So these are things for us to think about. As writers, we have to take care of our bodies. That's super important. And there are things to look out for, which is, are you having changes in your mobility, your energy level? Are you able to focus the way you used to? Some of us might have more focus as we age. Some of us might have less focus. We might be dealing with other things in our life. Maybe your body feels uncomfortable or is actually in pain, or your body is working okay, but it works differently. And the bottom line is, you may just be too tired, in too much pain to write. So I have this disclaimer on all of my slides when we're doing our assessment, which is, it is okay to talk to your doctor. And a little bit, I'll tell you why we might hesitate to do that, but take an inventory of your body. Because if we think about our health and our mental health, it might be really easy to say, well, I need to take some stress out of my life or need to exercise. But if you have an underlying medical condition, it may be important to focus on that first, have that under control, and then work on other areas of your life. So it's okay to start by thinking about your body. If you have been diagnosed with a condition, are you taking any medication as prescribed? Are you following any appropriate treatment plans? Are you seeing your doctor as you should? How are you taking care of your body? If we take care of our body, it actually will help us be able to write. So this is a writing workshop, but I'm just going to give you those reminders. It's really hard to write when we don't feel well. It's really tough to write when life throws challenges our way. So talk to your doctor when you feel different. And I often say feeling different might just be something that happens for a period of 2 weeks. So you don't have to wait until it's 6 months or a year, but if you have a 2-week period and you really feel different, talk to your doctor. That's a good thing. For me personally, as soon as I feel different, I want to talk to my doctor. So it's okay for us to pay attention, or if more frequently we're feeling a pain or a change in how we are, go talk to your doctor. So pay attention, ask yourself those tough questions. How are you doing? And number one is think about your body. The next thing we're going to talk about is actually our life. So it's one thing to take inventory of our bodies, try to make sure we're at our healthy best, but sometimes life throws challenges in our path. That could be the death of a loved one, a divorce, maybe changing careers. We might have to move, take care of family and friends. We're nurturing relationships that are sometimes difficult. And how we might feel is sort of fearful. We might want to avoid taking a risk if we've been hurt in the past. Change is really difficult. So changing a job, moving to a new city, it's okay for us to think about that, how it's impacting how we feel. Our self-esteem, our confidence is often quite devastated when we have different life events. We may feel confused or discouraged. And the bottom line for writers is that might mean you feel too overwhelmed to write. So think about the things in your life. We have great things that happen too, but we have challenges. Our life is never going to be just all happiness, all sadness. It's a balancing act. But those life changes that you have experienced do impact your ability to write. So let's just think about what those things are. We can't prevent these things from happening, but there are resources to help us. And that also includes talking to a doctor. So it may be helpful to have talk therapy, maybe some self-care strategies I'll talk to you about in a little bit. So there are things we can do. So everything I'm going to talk to you about, there are resources. I'm going to encourage you to take care of yourself, even when life is challenging. And this past year to 2 years, we've experienced a global pandemic. There have been changes that have happened. We cannot control these things. We cannot control the relationships we have. If somebody that we care about dies, these are things we can't control, but we can control how we react, how we seek support when we need it. And I want you to think about what's happening in your life, and we'll talk through some steps of what you can do next. Finally, I wanted to mention your mental health. Your mental health, it's all part of your body. So we're experiencing our physical health, the things in life that come at us, but we're also, our brains are smart. Our brains actually try to protect us. So on the screen, I have things like anxiety and stress. These are actually healthy for us. A little bit of stress, a little bit of anxiety actually kicks us into action, helps us meet deadlines. But what's not healthy is if we live with these feelings for long periods of time. Remember earlier I said 2 weeks, long periods of time, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 20 years. That's when we need to seek help. So a little bit of stress and anxiety is good. All the time, we may need to seek help. Some of us are experiencing depression. That's a persistent sadness. PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder. And that means we might have experienced something. It could have been a natural disaster. In the past year, we've heard about tornadoes, hurricanes, wildfires, global events. These are things that impact how we feel and our reaction to future events. So PTSD is something many of us may have experienced. We normally think about that in terms of somebody in the military who's been to war, but actually even in a domestic situation in our household, we may have witnessed things that have caused PTSD. It's important for us to recognize maybe the names of conditions. And there's also substance use disorder. So substance use can be healthy, meaning a glass of wine, but there are some behaviors that we have that are part of a coping strategy. So when we use substances, either prescribed, illegal, or things like alcohol, which are actually perfectly legal, but we use them in a way to avoid how we feel, and we develop a dependence on there. That's when we have something called a substance use disorder. There's no number of drinks that indicate alcohol use disorder, but if it impacts your ability to live, work, or play, that's when it's a great time to speak to a mental health professional or your doctor. And that's for all the conditions. So stress, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, substance use disorder. If it impacts your ability to go to work, have healthy relationships, or get simple things done like going to the grocery store, you should seek help. And what that might look like is restlessness, worry, being irritable, being hopeless, experiencing guilt. Really important one for us as writers is losing interest or pleasure in our hobbies and activities. So some of us write for our careers, some of us write as part of a second career that we have. When we lose that interest, it actually can be incredibly devastating. So taking care of our mental health is just as important as our physical health, being aware of life changes. So I hope this is helpful for just perspective that these are things many of us are experiencing. And if you're feeling too sad to write, I want to talk to you about some strategies that might help you put a few more words on the page, maybe even today. We've talked specifically about our bodies, but what happens when the whole world feels like it's on fire? We are impacted at a personal level for some of the things I just mentioned, in our body, in our life, in our mental health, but we are also impacted by events in our community, across our country, across the world. And it does create some of that fear. We may be experiencing grief when we hear about death and loss in the news. We might be worried about money. These are normal things that we worry about. Some of us feel guilty that maybe our life is okay. We're watching things happen to other people, but happiness is a part of our life as well as unhappiness. So if we've had a good year, we should honor that. If we have financial concerns, we should think about budgeting and the impact of money on our mental health. We should acknowledge grief and loss, and it's really challenging. Some of us have experienced close personal loss this year and throughout our life, maybe when we were younger. It's okay for us to acknowledge that something important to us is gone. And for fear, it's focus on what you can control. We cannot control events across the whole world. Sometimes we can't control the events in our own house, but there are things we can control. Writing is actually one of those things. Writing is one of the things. And for me personally, writing is my coping mechanism. So when life gets tough, writing is something that I do as part of my self-care strategy. But there's a reason why we are hesitating or hesitant to get help when we need it. There's often something called stigma when we think about mental health or even our physical health. Sometimes we may be living with a chronic condition and we don't even want to say the word. So it might be a diagnosis of cancer, might be living with a diagnosis of diabetes. And so stigma is when something we're experiencing is viewed in a negative way or as a disadvantage. These challenges are not disadvantages. It's just something we need to pay attention to and make sure we take care of. It's not a character flaw to feel depression, to have grief. It's actually normal. And we need to have these conversations to remove the stigma. So first of all, we're comfortable talking about it. We can advocate for ourselves and we can seek the help we need, or maybe even help each other. So I'm here trying to help you. Removing that stigma is important. We do have to recognize that how we were raised, or maybe the friends that we're with, impact how we think and speak about our mental and emotional health. Some groups say, I don't have depression. Depression is for people who are super rich. And, I just pull myself up by my bootstraps and I just deal with things. Maybe the city where you live, maybe you're in a rural area. Mental health conversations might vary. So how we were raised or where we live impacts our ability to talk about mental health, and it might impact our willingness to seek help. So think about how you were raised. And I always tell people I had really great parents. They took great care of me. I don't know if we were encouraged as kids to cry or be sad. It was always like kind of dry your tears, pull yourself up. Now I tell my kids, you know what? I am sad. When my father passed away, I had to tell them, you're going to see me cry. My mother-in-law passed away. This year, it was really devastating for me. I had a great mother-in-law. She was far too young. And I did tell my kids, I am going to cry. I don't want them to grow up feeling ashamed of their tears or their emotions. And that goes for my sons and my daughters, all of my children. I want them to feel comfortable being honest with their feelings. So think about how our culture impacts us and how even today, learning to use language that's focused on the condition, not the person, and how it can help us communicate. So in the past, you might have heard somebody say drug addict, but we actually try not to use that type of terminology anymore. We try to say someone has a substance use disorder. We aren't the decisions we make, and we aren't the conditions we're diagnosed with. So it's really important to use language that's focused on the experience or condition and not the person, so people can feel safe talking to us. And having this kind of literacy can help us be advocates, not just for ourselves, but even for other people. The most important thing I want to emphasize here is that we can change. That means if we don't feel well right now, we can feel better. And that could mean tired, depressed, grieving, living with a chronic condition. We can get help. So change is possible. It's okay for us to get help. Some of us are out looking at the world and it feels like there's a million things we need to take care of. We need to take care of our physical health, clean the kitchen, take care of our kids, focus on our relationships. We're kind of sad and depressed. We're worried about money. So there are a million things that we're thinking about. Some of you may have heard the story of the starfish on the beach. There's a person walking along the beach and they're picking up starfish and throwing them back into the ocean. So starfish are living organisms. They're alive. When they wash up on the shore, they dry out and die. And so this person is throwing the starfish back into the ocean. And if another person comes up to them and says, "What are you doing? Why are you saving these starfish?" And they look along the shore and there are millions of starfish, millions. And this person is just picking up one at a time, tossing them back into the ocean. And the person throwing the starfish, continues to put them back. And the friend is like, this doesn't matter. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? This doesn't matter. And the first person says, holding up the starfish, "It matters to this starfish." So I want you to think about saving a starfish. And today your starfish is your writing career. That means there's some things we can do to reframe how you think about yourself, your body, your health, your mental health, and your writing. And so you might say, "I'm stressed. Okay, the kitchen, my relationships, work, money, kids, I'm taking care of my mom. I'm stressed about all these things." But what if we said, instead of "I feel stressed," but I care about my mom. I care about our family budget. I care about my kids. So all I did is change the word stress for care. And what if our stress is just a sign of compassion? So we actually don't stress or worry about things that don't matter to us. We worry and stress about things we care about. So can you reframe the word stress as compassion? And what if we felt sort of proud of the things we cared about? So reframe how we talk about the things that are challenges. So those are things we care about, not things that stress us. And then can we stay focused? So I can't, in the same day, change everything. So I'm going to exercise, eat healthy, clean my house, make a budget, mow the lawn, fold my kids' clothes. By the way, I would never do that. They can fold their own clothes. But what if I just picked one thing and I said, tonight, I'm going to make sure I put my phone away an hour before bed and get to sleep on time? So saving a starfish means, can you focus on one action Think about what overwhelms you. Is it this long list of things? So focus on one starfish at a time. Focus on one area of your writing at a time. So try to stay focused. And earlier I said, focus on what you can control. We'll talk through some writing tips. So what can you do specific to your writing today? Actually, you get a brownie point because just being at this conference, watching this session is focusing on your writing. So you have saved one starfish today by making your writing a priority. And then maybe think about being efficient. We are tired. There are a million starfish on the shore. We want to do it all, but maybe it's okay if I just save 10. I just saved 10 starfish and I focus on myself. So we're going to talk about self-care. That means it is okay for you to take care of yourself. It is okay for us to recharge. And oftentimes we will make everything a priority across the whole world before we take care of ourselves. But it is okay for you to take care of yourself, recharge, focus on your writing, and maybe think of ways to be efficient with your writing. There are obligations we have to take care of. I can't just quit my job, quit my kids, go write at the beach. I have obligations that are important to me that I care about. So how can I be more efficient with my writing so I can get in even just a paragraph? Just think about it. How much can I get in today and be efficient? So we're not trying to save the whole world, just save one starfish at a time. Others of us might not feel overwhelmed with a million starfish along the shore. We have one project, maybe we're writing a book, but it feels insurmountable. So it's a little bit different, feeling overwhelmed with lots of different things, or having one task that we feel is like a mountain. So if you are working on your book, if you're working on your writing career and you feel challenged, two things: have a plan and keep your perspective. So the plan means what have you assessed? How much are you going to write? What's your strategy? Are you going to write one page a day? Can you give yourself some deadlines and deliverables? If you wrote a paragraph today, what if you wrote a little bit at this conference? Just one paragraph, and I am going to give you a writing exercise. Celebrate that. That's your plan. And your perspective is, we are all struggling, especially this past year. You are not alone. So don't feel like you're the only one struggling, but hopefully you're also not the only one taking steps to get to a better place. So pace yourself, look back at your progress, and prepare for a marathon. Writing a book, writing a novella, writing a short story, doing a character outline. These are things that take time. And if you've ever seen someone prepare for a marathon, they don't get up and run 26 miles. They start by walking a mile. Then they might walk and run a mile. Then they might walk one day, run the next day, and then they're going to do 2 miles and 3 miles. By the time you get to 13 miles, you actually kind of feel like a winner. So think about what that marathon looks like. A lot of practice, and that means one word, one paragraph, one chapter. And at this phase in your life, every time in our life we have different seasons, at some point you might be able to write 1,000 words in an hour. And sometimes you won't write 1,000 words in a day. That's okay. You're still preparing for the marathon. I did want to circle back to self-care because we can't save a starfish or climb that mountain if we haven't taken care of ourselves. And it's an important way to protect our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health. We want to be able to adapt to changes, keep our relationships strong, recover from setbacks. And for us today, write. I want you to write. That's it. I want you to be able to write. So if it means pick one thing from here that you can do, and there's some big buckets that we think about, like, are you feeding your intellectual soul. So are you reading a book or watching a movie that makes you think? Are you taking a class? Are you emotionally maybe taking some quiet time? Maybe that quiet time is called prayer or meditation or being in your garden. Do you enjoy being outside? Are you in a happy house? Are you interacting in your community? What does exercise feel like? Your financial security, your spiritual health. These are big bucket areas, but that breaks down into lots of little things, which is, did you watch something fun on TV or get a good night's sleep? Have you tried something? Are you making a plan? Maybe limit social media and technology, because honestly, that's the biggest way that I experience setbacks with my writing is procrastination. So if you can limit news, social media, technology, you might be able to get a lot more writing done. And that's what we're trying to do here. Also means pay attention to how you feel. If you are struggling, maybe it's time to talk to a doctor. So self-care looks like taking care of yourself, making yourself a priority. It is okay. And if you have other obligations in your family, in your life, at work, you actually cannot do your very best if you are not at your very best. So if you're taking care of your aging parent, you need sleep, you need healthy eating and exercise so that you can help someone. So self-care isn't actually selfish, though. I do want you to be selfish so you can get your writing done. It's okay for us to take care of ourselves. But if you're thinking of the bigger picture, the more you take care of yourself, the more you can be active in your community and your family. For me as a parent, I want to model good behavior. So that means I have an early bedtime, and I love it when I'm watching a movie with my kids and one of them says, you know what, I'm really tired, I'm going to bed. And they decide themselves, that's because I've modeled, sometimes at 8:30, I'm exhausted and I just need to lay down. It doesn't happen often, but I have to honor those times. So take care of yourself when you can. So what do we think about writing as self-care? On the screen, I have some questions I like to ask writers who feel like they're struggling. And it is simple because you're like, oh, of course I'm writing a book, I'm writing a novel. Well, if you're struggling, writing a book this month, this week, this year might not be the right thing. Can you write essays? Can you write a blog? Can you write poetry, a short story? Can you write maybe in a different genre? So think about what you want to write the way you feel right now. So yes, a book is the end goal, but maybe it's just funny status updates, funny tweets. It's okay for you to take a different approach to your writing. Give yourself a specific time of day. And I mean, write this down. So get a pen and paper, write down what you want to write down when you have time. Where are you going to write at lunchtime in a coffee shop, in the break room at your office? Do you have a little a closet where you're going to bring in a lamp and hide for people in your family? Think about who discourages your writing and don't mention writing to those people. So there's some people in our lives who might not be the best advocates, but we will protect ourselves by not talking about our writing with people who might be negative or barriers. But think about the people who do encourage you. So if you were at this writing conference, find us on social media, on TikTok and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everywhere we are. Be around people who will encourage you to write. That is part of your self-care. So if there are too many negative people, just stay silent about your writing. Doesn't mean avoid them. Just writing isn't a topic, and find the people who will be like, how many words did you write? Your words are great. Keep going. Try to get a chapter done. Find your cheerleaders. Think about how you feel when you write. And sometimes people get angry and they write a lot, or maybe sometimes people only write when they're happy. And I'm sometimes a little of both. How do you feel when you're finished writing? Do you feel invigorated? Do you feel exhausted? So pay attention and maybe change up the time of day and then assess how you feel. Think about what you're embarrassed or afraid of writing and maybe try that. Write what scares you. It might mean that that thing is important, but right now, if we're struggling with writing, we can do anything we want. So we can write poetry that rhymes. We can write in a genre we've never thought of. We can write in a way to scare us, embarrass us, make us feel uncomfortable, afraid. And that's because we're trying to reinvigorate our writing. And if you're listening to this presentation, I know that writing is important to you. So writing what scares you, what makes you feel uncomfortable, that's okay too. We'll get back to the place when we feel comfortable, when we're in the flow, when we're happy. But when we're struggling, we might have to just give ourselves a little jump start. So a writing exercise I really love is write down a few sentences or maybe a paragraph about a story you know by heart. Star Wars, The Wizard of Oz, Frankenstein. Maybe you like Captain America. Maybe you loved a specific mystery, Nancy Drew growing up. Pick a romance novel that you love. So I don't want you to create new words, but just pretend that you're writing the blurb for the back of the book or the copy on the TV screen when we're picking a show. What would you write if I said, tell me a story, but you have to tell me your favorite story, a story you love. And I want you to write down. So if you think you know the stories of the Wizard of Oz or Star Wars or Frankenstein, get out a piece of pen and paper when this workshop is done, or click pause and give yourself maybe 10 or 15 minutes and write down the story. So sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. So think about it when you're done. But what I want you to do is just get back in the habit of writing down words. Type, you can dictate, whatever your method is. I still have pen and paper. Tell me a story. So no pressure to create, new world, new character, all this stuff. Tell me a story you already know. And then when you're done, let me know if it's easy or hard. At the end of the presentation, I'll remind you of ways to contact me on social media, but I'm on Twitter as @Nikki Salcedo, so just my first and last name, NICKISALCEDO. If you want to send me a tweet and said, my story was Star Wars, it was super easy. Or my story was Star Wars, it was much harder than I thought. Let me know what you wrote and let me know how you felt when you wrote it. We're just trying to jumpstart writing, practice that muscle. And the good thing is, if you're a writer, it means you're a reader. And that means you have hundreds of stories you like. So after you do the first one, if you're still not ready to tackle your own personal creative project, pick another book or TV show, movie, and write down that synopsis. And it's a good way to practice getting back into writing a story. Now we're going to just challenge ourselves with the next set of questions. These handouts will be made available, so you don't have to try to screenshot this, but what's something sexy you've seen that you thought was so sexy? I always have like this from, I can't even remember what TV show or movie, but a guy wearing a tie and he just kind of fixed his tie. And I just was so sexy. So sexy doesn't mean necessarily sex or nudity or intercourse. Sometimes sexy is just something really simple. So maybe write down something that you thought was like very sexy or something that made you afraid. What makes you laugh, or the last time you cried? Do you have a secret? Don't write down the secret so nobody finds it, but think about your secret. Why do you have it? Why do you have the secret? And maybe make one up, make up a secret. These are fun questions I want you to write down the answers to. So we're just kickstarting the writing muscle. We've felt tired, we've been in pain, we've been sad, we've had dramatic changes in our relationships, our life, our work situation. How do we kickstart our writing? Ask yourself some of these funny questions. And even though they're, a handful of questions on the screen, go back and answer them again with new answers. Think about things that are sexy, horrific, and funny, and emotional, mysterious. These are things we have to put in our stories. So go back and look at your life. Maybe it's start writing a diary of what you're experiencing this year, but practice writing. These simple writing prompts actually are a good way. And you might write something and say, oh, that would work for my character. Hadn't really thought about this funny thing that happened when I was in third grade, but now I can use it in my story. So I'm asking you these questions about your favorite books and TV shows to write a synopsis, these questions to ask yourself. But the trick with the stories that you love and the things from your life is, this is how we find inspiration for our characters and stories. It looks really different when we write it. It's going to be very different, but our inspiration is there. So if you've been struggling, if you've been in pain, go back to your easy inspiration. And just remember little by little in closing. So it's just one word at a time. And then one sentence, one chapter. It doesn't have to be a failure this year because you didn't write as much as you wanted. Stay motivated. You're here with Georgia Romance Writers. I thank you for that. Find other writing classes, groups, conferences. Go to author talks at your local library. Read. Challenge yourself. Sometimes what we need is to really say, I can do this. I've got to dig in. I'm going to write when I don't feel like it. I'm going to try something different. Writing is a gift. Writing is a gift. We talked about self-care. Writing is a gift of self-care. For the people who are encouraging, tell them you're writing so they can cheer you on. And if you get to the point where you're writing and revising, learn to be critical without being a critic. It's okay to say, I need more description. I need to work on the pacing. Doesn't mean you're a bad writer. So trust yourself and have fun. Cannot emphasize enough how much your words matter. Your words matter so much. They matter to you. They're good for your emotional health. I actually think writing is good for my physical health. It brings down my blood pressure. It makes me happy to write. And this has been a really tough year for me. I haven't enjoyed reading. I haven't enjoyed writing. It's been a struggle, but I know that writing is an important part of who I am and my words matter. And also, your words matter to the people who are going to read them. So it is a gift for you, but it is a gift for your audience. So what's next for you? Let's just educate ourselves on how to take care of ourselves. And so that means learning about maybe your medical condition, your mental health, how we navigate relationships, try to use language that's empowering. We aren't what we experience, we're more than that. So we're going to start using good language around how we feel and just be open. So our education and literacy means it's okay to tell someone you're tired, or you're sad, you're exhausted, you need quiet time. You might have to say no to friends. You might have to say yes to friends. So there's no one way to be. Think about taking care of yourself. You are important, and taking care of yourself is important. Your healthy actions make a difference. And that means getting back to writing. And I just told you, your writing matters, your words matter. And then finally, know your resources. So in the community where you live, maybe through your employer, your local health department, you need to talk to a doctor or a counselor, behavioral health specialist. If you need to download a meditation app, maybe in your faith community, there are activities you can get involved with. Maybe it's gardening, taking a walk. There's so many ways to take care of ourselves. So know the resources and support that's available to you. Talk to your doctor or behavioral health specialist if you need to. There are some great resources that I use as I think about mental health and taking care of myself. I have some of the organizations listed on the screen if you're just ever curious about people who are living with mental health challenges, depression, grief. There are also some cool ways to support people in our lives. We don't know who may be in crisis, so having some phone numbers in our mobile device might be helpful. So I included the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, a crisis text line, and a domestic violence hotline. It is impossible for us to know what's happening in other people's lives, but it would feel great if somebody needed our help and we took out our mobile phone and we had a phone number ready to help them. So these are some great resources that I like. And if you're ever curious about mental health first aid, I teach classes everywhere because we're in a virtual world. It's a secret passion of mine. It's separate from my day job. I actually teach mental health first aid on the side. So happy to tell you more about that. Would love to be connected with you. So, ask yourself how you're feeling, what resonated with you, what might you do differently? We can't change the world, right? So we're just going to focus on what we can control. But happy for you to email me at author.nikkisalcedo@gmail.com or find me online. I write movie reviews at decatorish.com. Have a website, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I always post the books that I read. And I do want to send a special thank you again to Georgia Romance Writers and the 2021 Moonlight and Magnolias Virtual Writing Conference. It's a first for us. So thank you for joining us on this journey, and really give yourself a hand for making your writing a priority, thinking about your mental health and your emotional health. And I hope to stay connected with you soon. Best wishes and happy writing.